Hey everyone, I'm Bill. I'm with Cali Moto TV. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the garage where we have the 2019 Aprilia Tuono on the lift, and we are not removing the club today, which by the way, I want to tell you guys, when I bought this and I told Zach that I'm buying it and the only thing I'm going to be doing is exhaust. So far we have the stomp grips on it. We've got the windshield here. We are installing today the new Woodcraft GP shift, rear sets. We do have the exhaust. We've got tunes coming. We have a tidy tail coming. Remember, I'm only doing exhaust. We also have levers coming. We also have a radiator guard coming. Just exhaust. And I'm sure that there's going to be some other stuff. But today, the Woodcraft rear sets are going to be going on. Bogna doesn't quite fit in the spot here of the tank, so we want to raise her feet up a little bit. We will make them adjustable, obviously, so I can ride it as well. And she wants it to go GP shift, so Woodcraft actually makes an adapter for about $100, and I believe it is this adapter. And this adapter is the GP shift. You can get it standard shift or GP shift, but you can buy just this adapter for $100 if you just want to keep the rear sets on, just FYI. But today we're changing the rear sets, so we're going to start here on the brake side. What my past experience with Woodcraft, the biggest gripe I would say is just putting them together and figuring out how the heck this all goes. Now they give you some instructions, but it's a one-page basic, I don't know. So we are going to figure this out together. Real simple on tools. For this side, we're going to need a 13 millimeter for the exhaust on the back. And then we're going to need a 4 millimeter Allen for here. For here. And then the 6 millimeter Allen for here and here. So basically 3 tools to do the job. So let's go ahead and start by ripping this off and start putting the other ones together, figure it out, and then get everything mounted on this side, and then head over to the shifter side. All right, so first thing we're going to do is take our 4 millimeter, and we've got to take off the little brake reservoir holder. All right, so first small issue, these screws are in so tight, and then they Loctite them in, almost impossible to get out. So the top screw started to, the screws are also so soft that the screws started to strip. So be super careful. I was able to get this Allen to work, so we will pull these off up top, which what this does is this is going to break the master loose. So now the master is kind of sitting back here. So we're just going to leave that back there. And we'll move on to the next 3 bolts. All right, so now we're going to move back to the back exhaust. So this is a 6 millimeter Allen and a 13 millimeter wrench back in the back. So it should be fairly easy. This exhaust will come off very soon, just as soon as we can get over to Shiv for a dyno tune for you guys, which looks like it's going to be a couple weeks, unfortunately, but we wanted to do a nice dyno tune for you guys, so keep everything together. And then now we're going to move on to the 2 6 millimeter main bolts here. All right, good. Mm-hmm. All right, so what we're going to do is pull the little plunger out of there, and then we've got a little plug on this back side. Let's see, so we've got to figure out how to take the plug off. So it looks like there's a screw here, looks like a 4 millimeter. Yep. So let's go ahead and break that loose, not on very tight. And we're going to reuse the brake sensor switch. So they do tell you that on the on the instructions. And let's see if I can, let's get something to pull that off there. Alright, so the spring is off, switch is off, and now we have our rear set off, the stock one. And I believe we are also utilizing the switch bracket, and I think they also explain that in the instructions. So we're going to take this off. This is pretty easy to pop off. You just get a little pin, a little screwdriver, and pop that off, and then the pin comes out, and then you're pretty much saving it. And there it is. So I know we're going to save this, and I know we're going to save the brake switch. Where'd the brake switch go? Oh, brake switch is here. And of course the master, we're going to keep that just right there. And now we're going to start building the Woodcraft. So I'm going to try to put it together. I'm going to time lapse it. If I run into any difficulties, I'll stop and tell you guys what we're going to be doing. But hopefully it's pretty straightforward. So let's get putting those things together. Alright, so just want to kind of go through and have an understanding of what we've done so far. So the main bracket, the main foot peg, Loctite with the big bolt in the back that came with the system. Then we've got our brake assembly. This is where the switch is going to mount. This goes on the back of the rear set, so it bolts here. And so what I've done is I've already Loctite on here, and then there's the little roller pin here, which is our stop, and this is going to stop the brake pad pedal from coming up. Okay, so the roller goes here. What I just got hung up with is where is the bolt for this? And I realized after looking at the shape of it, this is actually the bolt that came out of the stock rear set. So you do have to reuse the bolt off the stock rear set. There is two washers that the instructions don't say to use, so I'm not going to use them, but I'm going to put just a little bit more dab of Loctite on this one, and we're going to Loctite this one through. And this is our big 6.5, so this should basically put together the assembly. And we can now see that the assembly moves freely. And so now we're going to install the foot peg, or the brake peg. And this is going to utilize a small screw with a mushroom cap. So we're going to use the mushroom cap size. And it actually goes from the back. Small little dab of Loctite. Alright, we're starting to look more like a rear set. So now I'm going to have to fiddle a little bit with how this all mounts. Obviously this is clear, but we are going to be reusing the pin that goes back into the back So this is a little bit, I've got to make this understand, I believe. Doesn't go like that, so it must go back here. So we're going to go here. Oh, two hands. So here, and locking pin. And then that swings around and locks in there. So now we've got our pin up here. And then the brake assembly will bolt on down here. So this is going to be the trickier part, because obviously we can't pull the brake assembly out. So we've got to figure out how to get this onto this while we mount it on. So good luck. Alright guys, so a little bit of a road bump with the rear sets for the brake side. So it states that the brake switch, the brake light switch, mounts about midpoint of the rear sets. And so if we turn these around to the back side, if you look at midpoint of the rear set, there's no hole. So it's supposed to be right here. And the switch is supposed to screw into it and go down to this plate, which then activates the switch when you push the pedal. The problem is that there's no hole to mount the switch. So we're this far, we're not going to stop, we're going to continue. What I'll do is I will probably just zip tie the brake switch, because I think it's a reverse switch. So out is on, in is off. So we've kind of just tucked it away, but you can see here that there's supposed to be a screw hole that it mounts to, and there's not one there. So, but everything else is gotten together, so you guys can kind of see how it looks, the exhaust bracket, and then of course we'll have the heel plate, which mounts on when the master cylinder goes on, and then show you guys, we are going to retain where the spring goes. You're going to retain both the brake, or the spring mounts off of the stock rear sets. So you're going to need those. The larger one goes on the top and the smaller one goes on the bottom. And then you can see right here, there's a little black plastic piece which they included in the kit, which is what the brake switch works off of. So bummer. So let's go ahead and get these mounted up. Then we can mount the master, mount it to the exhaust, and we'll button up this side. Alright guys, so you want to make sure that the pin is in the brake master. Okay, so that's kind of the first little thing that we're going to do. And then we're going to work this up, and I'm just going to lightly mount the one side, because you can see obviously the master is arguing with the pin right now. So we'll get that straightened up, and then we're gonna just start these two just a little bit, and then we now have, we can line the master up. Okay, there's our brake switch, which we're gonna have to deal with in a bit. And so the master is lined up in the holes behind. So now what we're going to do is grab a little bit of Loctite, and we're going to throw this on the lower thread. The thread locking, so it's going to slide through the heel plate, it's going to slide through the rear set and actually go into the master, which is actually what the thread is. And so there we go, click. You can kind of see it pulling there. And start the other one real quick before we get these all tightened up. Alright, so these are all started. Bada bing, bada boom, good, good, good. So now, let's go ahead and tighten the rear set completely. Alright, so now we're nice and tight, and we have this bolt left, and I will tell you that taking this top one out was really hard. In this one we had some problems getting it out, and I've just started to thread this, and you will see once we got about a turn in, it stopped and won't go any freely, which tells you one thing only: the master has been cross-threaded by the manufacturer, which is very nice, Aprilia. So we either have to do one of two things. Well, the only thing we can do is basically gently just cross-thread the bolt. So hopefully the bolt is soft enough to cross-thread and relearn the thread of the master, and then go in. So all right. And again, we'll get the proper torque specs for these. And then basically we've got the last thing, which is just the nut and bolt setup here for the stock. So I feel like, let's see. Yep. So I was going to say I felt like it was on the other side, but that's not right. So we're going to put that on there. Bolt on the back and just hold it until I can just basically thread it through. And one final snug on this. We're set. We've got brakes, so good. Mounted good. So of course we're going to torque spec these, and that, and that's it. Actually, they look really good. I actually wasn't sure about the silver, but being that the frame and the swing arm is silver, I'm really actually digging it, and they look really nice. So let's get over to the other side and try to figure that side out. All right, guys, just in one last thing, I noticed that the brake pedal was really stiff. So if you look at this bracket here and where this nut is, if you look real close, and when I loosen this, so stay up there real quick. So when I loosen this, you're going to watch that kind of rotate half moon down. So watch here in a second. I can rotate it down. See how it kind of swapped to the bottom? See that? Point. All right, so you want it down on the bottom, because now watch the brake pedal. Now we've got brake pedal. Does that make sense? So basically it's just, this gives you an adjuster of how much brake you want on, right? And we don't want to be dragging the brake. So see, there's a little bit of play. So right there. And then I'm going to tighten this up. And that's, I guess, your adjustment for the play in the brake pedal. Alright guys, so we're on the shifter side here. And so far, not great. Not horrible, but not great. I will say the only thing that we just noticed on the other side is the main bolt that holds the foot peg on threads through from the back, which means that you have to take the whole rear set off in order to change the position of the rear set, which really kind of sucks, because then that means I would have to take the rear set completely off if I want to change it for my height, instead of the bolt coming through this way where we can just unbolt it, switch it around, and bolt it back in. So that kind of sucks. But let's get this side unpacked. It looks a tad easier, but Wagner already says that I jinxed it. So let's get this thing unpacked and take a look. All right, so here is what I'm talking about. So if you look here, the foot peg is going to mount here, which I'm going to put it in the same position that we have the other one. But the bolt goes through on the back side, which I feel like if they would have just done a longer bolt through here, which mounts it, would have made more sense, because then we could take it off and move it. But now that we can't, we've got to stay in the same position, and yeah, that kind of sucks. So let's get it all tightened up. Alright guys, so just trying to get the shift rod off, so I remounted the shifter back on. I've got a 17 millimeter which goes on here, and then a 10 millimeter which breaks the back loose as well. But clearly, there we go. So we've got to get this locking nut off first before we can unmount that. So just before you get too far into that. And then you can notice that we can now unthread it. And then undo the shifter. And the shifter we can just kind of keep, the shifter's just going to kind of hang here. So unthread the shifter, and the shifter will be there. So you'll notice the length difference in the shift rod. So this is GP shift compared to standard shift. So this is what your GP shift needs to look like. If you have this one, you're at standard shift. The reason is because we're going to need to move this around. So you guys can just simulate this is going to move down to the bottom, and then that linkage is going to be here. So now it fits. Okay. So now we will move back on to removing the rear set, because we need to reutilize this shift bolt, or this bolt for the foot lever, in order to get it to mount on there. They want to reuse that. So away we go on removing the actual rear set. So just to make note, I'm going to leave this one on the top. I don't know if that was cross-threaded or just had a lot of Loctite on it, but it was really hard to get off, almost like it was cross-threaded. So we're going to keep that one up on top, because we're going to use that one obviously back on the bottom so we don't cross-thread again. So okay, so where we're at now is we've got to get our, it's like a 12 millimeter nut. So 13, but it's loose, which is really weird. So it might be like a standard nut. So that's kind of odd that it's not metric. So we're going to go ahead and remove this bolt. And there's a washer, and push the bolt. There we go. That's the old one, and washer. And there we go. So old stuff can go over there, and new stuff over here. So now what we're going to do is, this is going to mount, let's see, Satos, right? That was the rear sets that we had on the MT-09.
Yeah, that you jerry-rigged.
And it put it on the front side too, right?
It put it before in front of the heel guard.
Huh?
Huh? That doesn't seem safe.
It's odd. My apologies. You don't need this. They actually did supply a shorter bolt. So what they're saying is that goes there, and then this mounts here. So continue. All right. So after a brief intermission and confirmation that, yeah, sure enough, it mounts there on the front side, which is a little crazy because it seems like it's in the way, but let's continue with it and let's see how it rolls. All right, so another snafu with the design work. So the shift rod pedal is adjustable, so you can actually change the position of the shift rod or where your foot peg goes. But the great design of the bolt goes in on the back side. So let's see. You would once again have to take the rear set completely off just to change the position of this. So let's guesstimate. You're going to be your heels up, so you want the peg up on the top, right? Is that right? And I think that's really it. So let's go ahead and get these mounted and then figure out the actual shift linkage. All right. And so, oh, I was like, oh boy. Oh boy. All right, so let's reverse thread this in just a tad. Just enough to kind of make sure. And so I'm trying to understand the directions, because it says by the directions it looks like this has actually been moved, but let's throw this on. All right, so we had to look up on the old Google and look at some pictures. This is moved, but in the picture that they provide, they don't provide a clear enough shot to show you that this has actually been moved. Actually, in the picture, it looks like it's in the stock position. What they do state is that once you put this on, you should be in a 90-degree angle. So it should be vertical and horizontal at a 90-degree. Okay, so you definitely want to make sure that's done. And then FYI, the pinch bolt has to come all the way out. Move it. I think we moved it about we moved it from about 12 o'clock to now we're right about 11 o'clock. So we just moved it about three clicks or little marks. Okay, and if you move the marks, you'll understand what marks I'm talking about. And then you want to throw the pinch bolt back in and get that nice and tight. All right, now we're going to make sure that your spacer is on the inside before you thread your bolt through. So you're going to go spacer on the inside, okay, and then you're going to thread it through. And let's see, here we go. And Just snug that up just like that, just so we've got a good, and then so now what we would do is, I'm going to leave this loose for when we take the bike off to get the toe adjusted to Bogna's liking, because obviously your toe's got to be able to get under it. So what I did was I threaded this all the way in, and as we thread it back out, or you can see, because it's reverse thread, you can see this toe peg is actually raising up, which I'm assuming Bogna's going to want to be more about there. And then what we'll do is we will just slightly here and here, and we're going to leave it there, and then we will get everything adjusted to Bogna's liking, and then make sure obviously that the GP shift works. So obviously it's not in gear and whatnot, so we'll play with that a little bit. But that's it. That's pretty much all. So we've got a little bit of tidying up to do, but I think that's pretty much the basics of the install. I'll say they're not the easiest things to put on, and they're definitely not the self-explanatory, but I'll tell you, we did the Satos rear sets, and even the Bonamici sets that I've got on the BMW S1000R really didn't explain it. I don't get why I think I get why they don't put them together to send you because of packaging, but I don't get why they don't put them together. I don't know. It seems like every set of rear sets that I've put together has been this battle of trying to figure out how to put them together. The engineering of these I don't really like, because I don't like the fact that there's no way to change the peg. There's no way. It's got to come off and to change it. So if they would have put the bolt through here, you could have undone the bolt, moved it, and then put the bolt back in. So so let's wrap this up. And Woodcraft rear sets with the GP shift. I like the way they look. We'll see how they operate. We'll see how they operate at the track. We'll get them all adjusted and everything. And comment down below and let us know, was there something I missed? Was there something that I could have done a little bit easier? But if you guys have any questions, comment. But stay tuned in this video, in the comments down below, and we'll let you guys know, and we'll pin it up on the top, give you guys our opinion after we use these things, and let you guys know how we like them or how Bogna likes them. So please, more important than you know, and hit the subscribe button, and of course comment down below. And we're going to be out on track in a week's time, so we've got more stuff to do to this. We've got parts coming. Tail is already off. We've got the windscreens already here, so we've got some stuff going on. But if you pan over to the right here, we've got a Ducati Street Fighter V4S ready for some more parts that have finally come in, so stay tuned for that. And the BMW S1000 back there sounds like it's got a new muffler, but it sounds like it's gonna get a new header, so we'll see how that goes. But stay tuned, and thanks for watching, you guys. We'll see you next video. Bye, guys.